Afternoon, John.
Hey, Marty.
Welcome. We welcome ourselves to our weekly podcast where after a week of setting up what we're going to say and outlining it and researching it, we throw it all out and say, what do you want to talk about?
Right. Yep. And that's where we find ourselves one more time.
Exactly. Well, the beauty of the process, the beauty of accountability from my perspective, and I think I've heard you say this before, is that it always starts with where we are right now.
Yeah.
And I've begun to emphasize more in our meetings that, this is not a process for tomorrow. This is a process for right now.
Wow.
And its value is that it's always valid.
Yeah.
I'm always feeling something. I'm always thinking something. Sometimes those feelings and thoughts are in alignment with what I want, and sometimes they're not. And so when they're not, I have this beautiful tool I can use. Or, to be honest, sometimes I forget to use it, but it's still there.
Right.
When I finally wake up and go, oh, maybe suffering is optional, as the Buddha said. So I can take it on. I was thinking the other day about the fact that I've been attending an accountability practice meeting every week or more for 10 years. And thinking about I can't even remember the beginning. I mean, I have flashes of when you first came and facilitated our men's group, and but they're just flashes of memory. I've shared on this podcast before. I remember the first time I had a breakthrough when I found a truth that I was hiding from myself, and I was able to say it out loud and feel that rush of relief, or what you describe as the alignment. The inner, the outer are come into alignment.
Mm-hmm.
The mask and the reality become one instead of separate.
Right.
And what I've noticed is over the years of just doing this, I've been doing it twice a week now for at least 3 years, I'm not sure, is how much it's a part of my life. And I look forward to participating in a meeting, whether I have anything to work on or not. Doesn't matter. Doesn't seem to be a relevant point anymore. It's just, it's like a cup of coffee in the morning. It's just something I do.
Yeah.
Part of the deal.
Yeah.
And I never fail to learn something. It might be a big aha. It might be a minor thing. Doesn't matter.
Mm-mm.
I don't think from the perspective of the God or the higher power, there is any big or little aha. There's just growth.
Yeah.
There's just pushing the boundaries. One of the things that I was noticing, I thought maybe we could chat a little about if you're open to it, is, again, we've talked about this before, but it's the persistence of the resistance.
Ooh, I like that statement.
So I was noticing the other day, I don't remember the specifics, but I had an email from somebody, or I saw something in my news feed. I don't know what it was. And I noticed that the critical editorial voice just jumped on it and started producing critical commentary. Oh, that person's an idiot, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, wow, you haven't changed one bit since I started noticing you many, many years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's the good news. It hasn't gotten worse. It's the same.
Well, yeah. And
it's persistent.
It's become conscious.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah. So I don't make it wrong. I just go, oh my gosh, that's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just sitting there minding my own business, and then the editorial voice starts bellowing out.
Yeah.
As if it's on the top of the mountain commanding the world.
Yeah. Listen to me. I know best.
So I can understand that sense of it's good to be king because my voice thinks it's the king and just it's ordering the world around to be the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's you turn that on its head. The saying is what you resist persists, and the resistance has a persistence.
Yeah.
Yes, I like that.
Yeah.
So
maybe we can talk a little bit about developing a relationship with the resistance.
Okay. Yeah.
I think it's related to your statement. I think you first made on this, or I first heard it on this podcast of, I revel in my character defects.
Yeah. I remember saying that to you.
Is there any difference between saying that and I revel in the resistance?
Actually, the same. When I notice the resistance, it's a indication that there's something else hidden in my subconscious, lurking, waiting to pounce. So when I feel that resistance, it's like I have another opportunity. Oh my God. And the way I said, I run to the accountability process. Because I know that I can't do this thinking about it. I can't figure it out. I can't like make a bullet point list of all the different ways I can resist. So when it does come up, boom, it's like, gotcha. There's a book by Susan Anderson, probably Susan Anderson. And she talks about she calls it the outer child, or the spoiled child, or the wounded inner child. And she says the time to do the work is when you find yourself with your hand in the cookie jar. And that's when the experience can become conscious, the emotional feeling part of this process, which is not analytical, not intellectual. It's a frequency, and resistance is a frequency or a load that you have to get through. And time to do the work. And it's effective in that moment because the frequency is up. And then when I create an intent, instead of just like offhand, like, I want to be nice, I intend to be kind, fuses with that high energy, high frequency of awareness, and settles back in, reframed, now part of the cornerstone. It becomes, I have this picture in my mind where the cornerstone turns into like this precious building block made of gems and precious metals, and that becomes the foundation of my authenticity, my flexibility, my awareness, in the flow, center point, however you want to put it. So,
well, I think just like the character defects, the resistance has a role to play. And I dare say you can't not have resistance. Maybe someday when my consciousness is at the level of the divine, which beatifically accepts all things just the way they are and is not impacted by any particular thing, but merely lives in the flow, then perhaps resistance will have a much less role to play. But I think for me anyway, at the very least, resistance is the invitation to consciousness and awareness.
Yes. Yeah, well put.
And I think that what, the years of doing this practice, I think the most important thing that has happened for me is to develop that capacity to be aware of nuance of feeling and thought of which I wasn't aware before.
Correct.
I was just impacted by it. I was just commanded by it. And I responded to it like a puppet. Fear arises in some situation, and I react according to a script that had been written a long time ago.
Yeah.
And I do it over and over and over again.
And for me, it's that
get the same results over and over
yes,
and over again.
Over and over again. And it's that critical voice, that critical mind, that what they call it's not the nurturing parent, the critical parent.
Right.
That creates a story around the feeling instead of being in the feeling.
Right.
So I respond to the story as if that's the truth, instead of just settling into whatever the emotional frequency, feeling, tone is presenting itself. I make a story about it and then jump into the story, which is out of me. Like, those people are doing it because they're rotten people and they don't care about me. Okay, so instead of just feeling sadness or separation or embarrassment, I make a story about it, and then we got a good side, bad side, them people, me, us against them, which is part of the pain, is not being connected. So
I think it's a pretty subtle operation, and I'll indicate what I mean is that even when I have an emotional response to any situation, whatever it is, even the attempt to name it can deflect me from the feeling of it.
yes.
So when my practice now is that when I feel something acutely and or unexpectedly, I have like an inner flag that pops up and goes, let's feel this and not name it for as long as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Because my default position is to say, like a good accountability student, oh, I'm feeling sad. Well, what if I just feel and I move my attention to that area in my body that's having the vibration and most intensity,
Mm-hmm.
and just be with it. Or maybe even inquire of it whether there's something it wants me to know.
Yes.
Because I'm telling you, John, when I label something, I notice automatically the feeling tone diminishes. And when it diminishes, I'm losing the opportunity to learn from it.
Yeah.
No blame, no judgment. I mean, again, this is just something I'm learning.
And what I've, now that I'm trying to like articulate this, when I'm in the flow, there's no interruption in that I watch myself respond. And I'm thinking now, as the facilitator, or as you and I agreeing to have this conversation, and settling into this, me just being who I am, and we don't have to even define that. I am whatever that is. And watching myself participate with you, saying the things I'm saying, because what I'm saying right now hasn't been pre-thought. It's simply moving through me, out of me, to you, in this agreement that we have to dialogue. And there's a promise that the 12 steps gives you. You will come to a life you never knew possible. And the experience that I'm sharing with you in this flow place, and especially when I'm facilitating a group, is just this remarkable, responsive, effective on point presence. And then there's no script. It just flows from me. I may respond to somebody's question with an example of mine, or let's take it to the accountability tree. And some other person's request, I may just say, no, I'm not going to do that. No. And I'm finding that it's appropriate to our agreement. Like when people come to me in group, the first question is, what do you want that you don't have? Because our conversation is going to be centered on you acquiring whatever that is you want that you don't have. We identify a sense of peace, inner peace, quiet mind, self-forgiveness, whatever that identifier is. Then this flow happens in me to facilitate that for you, which is the agreement. And it's, well, the word that comes to me is inspired. And I find myself in this inspirational place that's continuous for long, long periods of time. Yeah, I don't know what else to add to that. I just, usually when I'm done with whatever it is I'm doing, it just drops and it's just blank, and I just acknowledge that and either pause or ask a question. And I'm at that point right now.
I was musing as you were sharing about the I don't know what the word here is, but the structure of relationship and how that plays a role in this. So when you're facilitating, or when you and I are having a conversation, there's two people involved.
Mm-hmm.
So there's something, and you use the word agreement, and there's other words that we could use that are the collective space between the two people, between the two of us, that is the container of the communication. Almost sounds too trite, but of the energy going between two people, the vulnerability, the revelation. And it seems to me that like when I'm facilitating a meeting, that the other person is a 50% partner in this. It's not, there's something about the other person's commitment, energy, even love, that is equally important to whatever's going to happen. And that what I'm doing is, it's almost like I'm in a dance. Yeah. I know this is a cliche too, but I'm going to use it. It's like I'm in a dance with the other person, like I'm in a dance with you. And we're by being open and listening and asking for feedback, we're slowly but surely finding the steps that are the most fun to dance to.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, being human, what's fun now might not be fun 5 minutes from now. So we're staying alert to the possibility of something new intervening.
Yeah. And it's, I just, that's the flow, whatever the flow is. One of the things I've learned from being in the flow is that silence is not the enemy. Pauses and just sitting with is okay. You know, before my recovery, if I was in some place and there was silence, I would be like, oh, what do I do now? What do I got to say? So no one's talking. Maybe I should like offer to get the thing going. Maybe I should help these people. All this stuff was going through my mind. Now in the silence, in the pauses in between, I just simply rest in it and wait and see what happens. And I'll even tell, especially new people that come into the group, that you will experience pauses, and they're intentional on my part. The traditional style of communication filled the space up with words, with syntax and whatever you call it. And that's where I came from. That's not where I want to go. And the silence is intentional on my part because I get to experience myself in that moment and where I'm at. And at first the silences were difficult and a lot of critical, say this, you're the teacher, somebody's paying you to do this, you got to like earn your money, come on. Where now it's okay, this is appropriate for what's happening. I was introduced to this. I took a class at Sac State. It was a adult education class, and they talked about styles of teaching. One is pedagogical, and the one we were going to learn was andragogical. And it's like a new word to me. I thought, okay, what does that mean? That means it's peer teaching. We're not pedagogical where one person knows and the other one's learning. It's this exchange of skill sets and information about building skill sets and accumulating information about what we're both interested in, whether it's auto mechanics or carpentry or whatever that skill may be. Adult education could be personal development, but it's this where we're both here. I'm where I'm a fellow human being like you're a fellow human being. I'm not pretending to be up here teaching you. This is I want to use the word symbiotic. I'm not sure if that's the right term for this. It's even egalitarian is equal. It's
mutual.
Mutual. There you go. I like that. It's a mutual understanding and exchange of information.
Well, I would offer that it's, I hear the word exchange information as dry. So what I want to add is it's an exchange of information and practice, and it's what I was trying to get at before. It's also relationship building.
Yes.
It's all of those things simultaneously.
Yes.
Because I've been in peer-to-peer relationships where it was dry and boring and we were just exchanging information. And we weren't building a relationship, and we weren't really focused on learning from each other in the moment. It could still be, it's like a contest, who can present more.
Right.
So if I have this commitment to the other elements or facets of what's going on, then I'm open to surprise. I'm open to saying, oh, I didn't know that. I'm open to asking questions so that I no longer need to put my own expertise in the forefront. It's there and it's accessible, but really what we're doing here is we're trying to create something new through the mutual exploration of the subject matter.
Yeah.
It's almost like we're composing music together.
Yeah.
Without stretching that metaphor too hard.
Well, and it's the experience of each other rather than the I know, you know.
Right.
And that experience is bonding. It's enriching. It's fulfillment. It's full. Yeah.
Well, just to bring it full circle to the accountability practice, it's what I didn't get as a kid in my family of origin.
Correct.
That was there from time to time, but it was incredibly inconsistent.
Yeah.
And therefore not dependable. And I would ultimately develop a suspicion when it looked like that might happen, like I'm going to have a relationship with my dad rather than I'm going to be lectured to by my dad. And if my dad would give evidence that he wanted to be in a more give and take, equal kind of relationship in the moment, I would be suspicious of it and oftentimes just say no. By my behavior, not by word.
Right.
I was like, I could play aloof from my old man, particularly when I was a teenager, with the best of them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I've spent my whole life playing that with my mom.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, as you were talking and mentioned dad,
Right.
I went someplace. I went back with my dad on a fishing trip, and well, he didn't use me as bait, but
so to speak.
Yeah, so to speak. But we were fishing the Sacramento River for white bass, striped bass, and he had one on the line, and it got hooked into a branch that was close to the shore. Yet, you know, he had me go take the hook off the log. It's like, are you kidding me? Because the fish was more important than me having a hook in my leg or in my ass or someplace in my body and be part of the fight. It's like, oh my God. And I did. I stripped down to my underwear and went in the river, Sacramento River, and unhooked the hook from the log. Holy cow. Anyway, that's where I went when you said that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he.
When I was making, probably clumsily, was that these actual experiences that we have create the template for how we're going to relate in the future.
Yeah.
And if they are like that, the overwhelming challenge in my relationship with my dad in particular was, my perception was that I couldn't trust which dad was going to show up. Because there was the fun and loving, nurturing dad. Mm-hmm. And then there was the drunk, angry, loud, frightening dad.
Yeah.
And there was, I'm just casting back through the first 12 years of my life. There was just never any way I could tell which one was going to come home.
Right.
And so the safest way to be was aloof and stay out of the way.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow.
And that's how I've been my whole life with people. But that's where I learned it.
So what were we talking about? It's like I'm in my dad's shit here.
Yeah,
okay. So
we were talking about being in the flow.
Yeah, being in the flow. I just came out of the flow.
But you got in the river.
I got in the river. I got into the big muddy flow. So using this as an example, what I'm going to do is just simply feel devalued. That was the feeling. You're not worth, and we're going to put you in peril. And okay, so I'm going to just feel that, what happened to me, instead of talking about what a dickhead he is, excuse the language, and just feel it. And say that was hurtful to experience that, under the guise of being a good kid. And what comes to me is my intent to continue this work, and be in gratitude for the information I've gleaned through my recovery process, which I'm now sharing with as many people as I can. One of the things that from that experience of not being able to just feel the diminishment that was there, was that I would in my adult life diminish other people, make fun of, and I saw how that process threw me, and I became this demeaning, And it is my intent to be a loving, caring, nurturing spouse, father, and participant in my community. You know, give my dad back his energy. It's not mine. It had nothing to do with me. Last week we had Daniel on, and Daniel was in his process. You know, we're the facilitators of this message, and yet I want everybody to know that I don't tell you this is good for you because I think it's good for you. I use this in my life. It is my practice that I'm talking about. And it works. So it works for me. And it's like, gives me the opportunity to sit up, put my shoulders back, and like who I am, like who I've become through all that trauma and mistakes and the things that I've, the action of mine that impacted the people around me, and know that no more. It's good. I'm claiming my life. I did it at 50 years old. Right now, 71. I reclaimed another piece. And I'm grateful. So
as you were sharing, if I could share my experience. So as I was saying that about my father and my mother, I just felt an energy up here in my upper chest and in my throat.
Mm-hmm.
That was generating tears, and because I'm in a conversation and relationship with you, I felt myself just being willing to feel it and see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you said what you just said, I'm reflecting on what we're reclaiming as the capacity to, as human beings, feel a whole range of things all the time. And to be able to be hot and cold, to be able to be happy and angry, to be able to be sad and exuberant, all in the course of an hour, and to be aware of it,
Mm-hmm.
not to, and to notice judgments that may come up. Well, you shouldn't feel that way or whatever. I mean, again, my editorial voice, who's, you know, who's on permanent call.
Yeah.
24/7. Anytime. In fact, that sometimes that voice authors dreams that I have. So, but that's the human. That's the whole point of doing accountability practice for me, is to give myself permission to experience all of it. To notice when when there's a part of me that tries to quash it. There's a part of me that tries to divert it. And sometimes I let it divert. Sometimes it's like, you know, I just don't got what it takes right now to be the Buddha.
Right.
So I'm not.
Yeah.
And of course, it was the Buddha who said, if you meet a Buddha on the road, kill him. So
right.
It's okay. But for me, that's the value of this, to find myself, you know, I'm always catching up to you because I'm not quite 70 yet, but to find myself in the same age neighborhood as you, to just be enjoying my life. I'm enjoying my life. Yes, there's stuff that pisses me off. Yes, there's stuff that scares me. Yes, there are times when I feel thrown for a loop. Yes, there are times when the inner emotional energy compulsively takes over. All of that stuff, that's just being human. That's just being Marty Keller, human being, 2021. And my default position ceases to be, I need to do something about this. Even when my head goes, you need to do something about this. And there's another part, I have this other voice now that goes, no, I don't. Where did that come from?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, it's all from the same source. That's the beauty of it. It's to learn non-resistance, which again, from you, I learned the way to practice non-resistance is through that beautiful phrase, I give myself permission.
Right.
I give myself permission to resist. It's like, you know, that phrase is utterly unconditional. And that's really what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
Is I don't want to be conditioned, particularly when it comes to love. So I give myself permission to whatever it is a statement of unconditional love. And the irony is that because this work is full of paradoxes, somebody in the meeting the other night was marveling at the paradoxes of the work. It's like, as soon as I give myself permission to, let's say, be angry.
Yeah.
It's almost like anger said, that's just what I was waiting to hear. And now I'm not angry anymore.
Yep. Yep. Exactly.
I was just waiting to be loved.
Yeah.
And being given permission to do it, to be, is unconditional love.
One of the things I learned in the Center for Spiritual Awareness, Science of Mind, Ernest Holmes, one of their principles is there's either a call for love or an expression of love, no exceptions.
Right.
So, and when you were talking, I got on a deeper level that internal calls for love work the same way. That I can hear that internal call for love and go, okay, I give myself permission to eat all the damn Haagen-Dazs I want, just like eat it, go ahead. And there's this freeing aspect of it, and I could either go get it or not. It doesn't matter. It's in the long run, Haagen-Dazs is only Haagen-Dazs, and so. Yeah, as I was saying, Haagen-Dazs is just Haagen-Dazs, and in the long run, okay, cool. And
was it Nietzsche who said, "In the long run, we're all dead anyway"? So
probably Nietzsche or Schopenhauer.
One of those guys.
I remember Neil Donald Walsh talking about. He wrote those probably more than 3 books, but Conversations with God.
Right.
And he was talking to somebody, and he said, just, be nice to yourself. If you want to go exercise, just go exercise. If you want to have a salami sandwich, go have a salami sandwich. And it was like, don't be, excuse me, don't beat yourself up. Just enjoy. And what I got from that is life is about experience and movement and adventure and learning. And okay, it may include Haagen-Dazs and salami sandwiches, which both of them are really like, yay. And I'm moderate. I can use moderation. So.
Well, I made the comment, the Nietzsche or Schopenhauer quote, only partially in jest, because the truth is we do only have so much time on the planet to enjoy.
Right.
And while it may not be universally true that everybody has the decision whether we can enjoy or not enjoy life, for most of us, we have the decision. Do you want to enjoy life, or do you want to be miserable?
Yeah.
Which in a certain way is just enjoying being miserable.
Well,
so when we do the accountability process, we're actually helping ourselves uncover those addictive behaviors, those addictions to misery that we're not aware of as addictions. They just seem, oh, it's just the way it is.
Right.
You know, I just can't get ahead in life. I'm always the last one in the line, or whatever the story is that we're telling ourselves. And to help uncover, how much am I the last in the line because I'm actually putting myself last in line, and not because of any objective conditions other than my own choice. And then to help me see, oh, this is actually a subconscious choice I've been making. Well, do I need to make that choice? Do I want to?
Yeah.
Maybe I don't.
One of the things based on this conversation, this dialogue, is what I tell people is whatever you're going to do it consciously. Just simply do it consciously. It will change you. If I have a sugar addiction and I'm beating myself up for the sugar addiction, and I find myself, you know, gorging either with carbohydrates or sugar, and I keep beating myself up, if I make the conscious decision to do that, then the effects of that are mine. I enjoy the consequences of those, and then I can choose whether I want to do that again or not. In my alcoholism, it wasn't conscious. I drank because it's Miller time, because I have a right. I worked hard, because you're up my ass, or because life is this, or the boss, or the government, or my partner. I was going to say wife, but I don't say wife anymore. Partner at the time. I blamed them for my decisions, and it was the downward spiral. Once I'm an alcoholic, and I can choose to drink if I want, which was a period of time in my recovery where I didn't stop drinking, it just dawned on me, maybe I should stop. What a thought. Because I wasn't blaming on anybody. I made the decision. And I also came up with, maybe this is standing in the way of me accumulating the information that I was going to Adult Children of Alcoholics 12-step group to gain. So I tried it and quit.
Well, you know, it reminds me of the conversation we had where we were talking about nothing's wrong. And we said nothing's wrong, and there's pain.
And there's pain, and it hurts, and there's consequences.
And I was going to say the same thing as here. I give myself permission to does not eliminate karma.
Exactly not. It gives you clarity in karma.
Exactly.
Yes.
Well, and then when I have clarity, I have much more capacity to partner with karma than to be a victim of it.
Yes, I like that. Yeah.
I mean, karma, which is just the law of consequences, is irrepealable, but it's not implacable.
Well, it always is in effect.
Correct.
Okay, so the karma that I'm experiencing now is copious amounts of respect, gratitude, joy, love, both ways.
Exactly.
I'm enjoying that karma because the action I took created this response, this coming to me. And that's my definition of karma. Before my recovery, I was a victim. They didn't, nobody cared about me, on and on and on. The same thing's happening, only now what's coming to me is a direct result of my willingness to look in, my willingness to own and be accountable for my behavior. And in that process, I separated myself, who I am, from the behavior.
Right.
And then named it. I am a gentle, loving, empowering whole man.
Yeah, just pointing out for the newcomer, the person who may be listening to this for the first time, that we do in this practice have some fundamental principles that we think are universal and applicable in all cases. And maybe we can go into those next week in greater detail. But the law of karma is certainly one of those, which is simply to say karma is neutral. Karma don't care. No. If you do X, Y will ensue.
Yep.
And all we're saying is that if I choose X, it would be best to choose it awake to the fact that Y might ensue by the virtue of X, and it isn't because someone else made it happen, it's because I chose it.
Right.
But I think there's also, because of the power of yes, when I give myself permission to do something that may have negative karmic consequences, it's possible that my saying yes and giving myself permission opens the door to my creating something else and to create pleasant karmic consequences rather than unpleasant karmic consequences.
Yeah. It gives you
sort of what you just said. I just made it sound highfalutin.
Oh, good for you. It's good. And those two perspectives, see, there's so many people that when I say some people relate, when you say some people relate, and we don't have everybody. So the more ways we can say this, the more cool I think it is.
Right. Right. Well, what I heard you say a few minutes ago, I think is the real power switch. The on-off switch is being conscious, being conscious, being aware. And I freely admit that awareness seems to be an evolutionary capacity. I'm aware of more now than I was yesterday, but that just means there's still stuff I'm not aware of that I might be aware of tomorrow.
Yes.
And that's okay. That's the way it is. The world evolves, consciousness evolves. Even though consciousness is also an absolute, but I'm not there yet.
There's a capacity to hold consciousness.
Yep.
And right now, my capacity on the spiral is right there.
Right.
And the spiral is infinite and continuous, yes.
A lot of the conflict that we have in our world is when people of a certain level of consciousness become frustrated that others don't have that level of consciousness and think that there's some way to force it to occur.
Yeah.
And what I like about the accountability process, that the accountability process is the opposite. Nothing is forced, nothing is required, because one of our fundamental principles is nothing's wrong. There's nothing wrong with you, there's nothing wrong with me. We may have differing levels of consciousness, but that's not right or wrong. It's just what it is. And because we know
better or worse.
What's that?
Nor is it better or worse.
Exactly. And because we have faith that consciousness evolves, we know that by doing certain practices, there is the capability of consciousness to evolve.
Yeah.
It's when I do the accountability process, I get in touch with the emotional truth of what I've been hiding from myself, resisting. And in that emotional reality, I become awake to a new possibility, and I state what I want that new possibility to be by stating my intention. I intend to create a world of joy, peace, freedom, and community. Then I'm working with those forces, higher power, God, whatever word you want, that have the capacity to actually generate and manifest those truths. And now there's a whole different awareness. What's fun for me when I'm working with brothers and sisters in recovery is when I watch somebody notice the evidence of their intentions.
Yes.
When someone says, you know, last week I set an intention to have such and such, and guess what showed up? Because that's how we are as human beings. We're evidence-based. Show me the money. Show me intentions work. Yep. And it's like, well, okay. I don't have to show it to you. All you got to do is take a chance, see what happens.
And pay attention. Just watch. That's the marriage of science and spirituality. Spirituality, through the scientific method, is demonstratable, is consistent, is Rudolf Steiner, Science of Mind, some of the New Age things that are coming out, we can demonstrate this. And the demonstration, you can demonstrate it in your own life by creating intent and paying attention. And sometimes I would need help to recognize that I'm already where I said I want to be, because it's unfamiliar with me and I'm trying to figure it out consciously or rationally. And it's not rational or logical. It's an experience. And I call it getting blindsided by healthy behavior. I'm in the behavior, and then it like dawns on me, oh, this is different. I'm different. Oh my God, this is cool. And I know that it can, and I connect it to accountability, owning my character defects, whatever that derogatory statement is in my mind, just owning it. I'm no good, I'm of no value. And then going, oh, it is my intent to recognize my value. It is my intent to hold myself in high regard. And then finding myself in a situation where I am holding myself in high regard. And I didn't have to have the what if, well, if this happens, then you can't. No, I don't know. I don't know. You will know when it happens where you're at.
All the great spiritual avatars, the Buddha, Jesus, Lao Tzu, they all said this, they all said a version of what I just heard you say. They said, I'm living in the kingdom of heaven and you can too. And here's how you do this.
Right.
If you do these practices, you will enter into the kingdom. Now, Jesus said stuff that freaked people. He said, unless you become like a little child, you won't enter into the kingdom. But people at least took it and said, well, okay, how do I become like a little child?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we're saying here. An accountability practice is a practice, just like Jesus offered practices, just like Kabbalah offers practices, just like Rumi offered practices. We're not saying this is the only way. There's many ways, but they all have pretty much the same elements.
Yeah.
And so what we're saying is, if you don't like what you have in your life right now and you want something different, here's a process that you might consider. And you're the one that will discover what it is that you really want. And you're the one that will set the intention and invoke the support of your higher power, your God, whatever. Again, it's not important what one labels it. And then you'll see whether the results are there.
Yep.
And the beauty of the practice is that we do it with each other, so that we have others who can help us see what we may not see.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the basic material constants is in the intentional living material is the 4 constants of relationship, because everything we do is in relationship to. There's nothing we do that's not in relationship to self or others, people, places, and things. So it's building that relationship consciously. My wounding, my pain came in the presence of people. Necessarily, my healing has come in the presence of people.
Well, the fundamental truth is, you were alluding to this earlier when you talked about Science of Mind. The fundamental truth of all human beings is we just want to be loved.
Yep.
And love is only a relational activity.
Yeah.
So ultimately, for me, this practice is a practice of self-love, self-acceptance, self-enjoyment, self-reveling, not in a narcissistic way, but in a way that allows me to then enjoy you, self-enjoying, self-creating, self-nurturing. Because we are in relationship. So when I nurture myself, I automatically am offering nurturing to others.
Yes.
And vice versa. I know this can get a little mystical here, folks, and it's just something, again, that one discovers in practice. You can read about this till the cows come home and still feel lonely and miserable. So it's a practice. You do the practice and never read any of the books of the mystics, you still have the experience.
Exactly.
So as we come to the end of our time together, as always, I want to let people know that if you'd like to check out this practice, there are a number of groups that you can participate in on Zoom. We have 3 here in Sacramento. John runs one out of Oceanside. And if you want to find out how to join them, my email address and John's email addresses will be displayed after we're done here. And you can just shoot a note to either one of us and we'll be happy to let you know the Zoom address of the meetings. There's a Monday night, a Tuesday night for men only, Thursday night, and Saturday morning. So please feel free to avail yourself of the process and just check it out. And with that, as always, John, I'm happy to leave you the last word if you got one.
Accountability is the key to knowing yourself. And when I say accountability, don't use the definition in the dictionary, Funk and Wagnall or Merriam-Webster. It's like that definition is hold somebody liable, punishable. The way I use the word is my ability to account for the behavior that's in alignment with my experience, my trauma, without blame or judgment. That's what I got.
Pretty good stuff.
Okay.
Well, thanks very much, John, and I look forward to picking up this conversation next week.